security and policy initiatives.
Good morning, friends. On behalf of SAPI, the Think Factory, standing for Security, Peace and Policy Initiatives, I extend a very warm welcome to you all. Throughout the history, borders have mattered, since standing for territorial integrity and political sovereignty of a country. In modern times, though, the proponents of globalization dream of a borderless world, since issues like free flow of people and free trade and global warming, etc., cannot be easily tackled in a world restricted by borders. And yet the borderless world, to great extent, exists only in virtual spaces and not in reality. No wonder the borders and the border disputes continue to be common source of political instability and military conflict around the planet. Personally speaking, having experienced what it feels to be standing at Wagah border dividing India and Pakistan, or DMZ dividing South and North Korea, I can say with conviction that borders, more than being a physical dividing line, could be of great psychological and emotional value, defining a countryman's identity, belongingness, pride. In a nutshell, his or her whole being. However, when it comes to management of these borders in a context like that of India, due to endless challenges given borders' lengths and geographical intricacies, including hostile terrains, it becomes a real work in progress. Border management, not only for India, but also for many countries, remain a work in progress because it requires a sound strategy based on quality inputs and dynamic inputs from a very objective perspective. Well, here at SAPI, the Think Factory, we aim to fill in by helping bridge the gap between knowledge and policy and public policy makers and public policy. It is with this backdrop that SAPI is hosting its second webinar today on necessity for effective border management. Friends, we have very experienced and very dynamic duo, Shri K.K. Sharma, former DG, Border Security Force, and Shri D. Kamalakar, former Additional DG Police, Maharashtra. Mr. Pradeep Gupta is the founder of SAPI and who had been Joint Secretary, Border Management too, while he was in Ministry of Home Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen,
thank you so much.
Is the time now for question answer sessions, and I see certain questions already in my chat box. So may I first take Colonel Kevin D'Souza's question, which is very interesting. Actually, this is 3 questions rolled into one and addressed to Sharma sir as well as Kamalakar sir. So Colonel Kevin D'Souza. Colonel Kevin, are you there?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Very nice. I'm very happy to be here. And thank you very much to the panelists for their very, very informative and very in-depth understanding. Definitely, it's a very difficult, kind of issue which we are facing and which has to be kind of addressed. But I'm just, taking a very macro view, and maybe it's something which many of us may not have thought of. But I just feel that maybe we can, mull it over. So my question actually to both panelists is like this, that India has limited funds for the development of our citizens. There's no doubt about that. There are 200 million people under the poverty line and who are not getting basic amenities like healthcare and, schools and, other things. So we are short of funds, right? Now, since the borders are so long and in inhospitable terrain, like in Ladakh and, Arunachal, etc., to my mind, border management is going to be extremely costly because either we put our Jawans over there, all along the border, or we put, even surveillance devices and fences, etc., etc. It is going to be extremely costly. And even after that, like we have experienced in the JNK, we have put the fence along with the LOC with Pakistan. We still found people were still able to squeeze through and come through. The infiltrators and people who wanted to get through still come through. So our experience is that it's not 100% manageable, even no matter how much money we put in, right? So what I'm saying is, what do you believe is the cost which is acceptable to India? So let us say, if we take it in terms of GDP, let us say we are saying that defense 3% up to 3% is fine, though the government themselves are saying, no, we can't afford 3%, we can only give around 2%. So in border management, let us say, is 0.5% of GDP acceptable, or is 0.25? And even with that, what is the surety that we'll still be able to 100% control the border? And should we instead should we try to spend more diplomatic efforts to resolve these border issues in a permanent way with all our neighbors, like China has done? I believe China has done this over the last 30-40 years. In case of Pakistan, they even bartered some land. Pakistan gave some land to China, and the matter was resolved. After that, they've never had a problem. Similarly, China has resolved all its border issues with the erstwhile USSR. We had a number of disputes, but they've been resolved. Now, how have they been resolved? I don't know. They may have bartered some land, they may have whatever, right? So the thing is that, and in some places, like I'm as an army officer who's served in Ladakh, I noticed something. I served in Siachen and these other places. And yes, we were fighting, we were protecting our borders. But when I saw the people there, the culture, I found that they are actually very much closer to the Chinese culture. I mean, they're not really, similar to ours. And the land is so inhospitable. It is deserted. There is no resources, no oil, no minerals, no, vegetation, nothing of value there. Nothing lives over there. But we still believe that we have to, that land is important to us and that we have to protect it, even though we're spending every day around crores of rupees would be spent on every inch of land. So I'm just wondering, I mean, what do you feel about what I'm asking of you, of these, what these doubts I have in my mind?
Sharma sir, would you like to take this question? If you want, I can summarize 3 points he made. One was regarding border management being a very expensive proposition. So what should be the ideal budget, earmarked for this? Second, China already seemed to have resolved its issues with neighbors, if required, bartering their lands. And third, there could be border inhabitants who identify with the neighbors more than with you, India. So, sir, to you.
This is a very interesting question. You see, to maintain the sovereignty and political integrity of the country, secure borders are a constant. You will have to draw a line to say that this is mine and the other part is the counterpart. If you don't have secure borders, your country may not exist. With China, if you don't draw a line that this is my control and I won't let you come inside my territory from this point onwards, there will be any limit. They will occupy Arunachal, they will cut the chicken, they will take the entire northeast. There is no limit. Somewhere, if you remain independent nation, you will have to take a stand. You will have to draw. There is no alternative but to take a stand. China may have resolved all these issues with their other neighbors because they are very powerful. No neighbor dare stand up to them. Russia was equally powerful, therefore, no powerful people decided that we should sort out and they sorted out their border issues. But with India, they have been deploying bullying tactics till now. It was the first time that this government has taken a very firm stand and said enough is enough and we won't allow this. We have taken action against their companies in our country. We have, to some extent, stopped the Chinese goods being coming to our country. I think Colonel Kevin, I think, was the person who asked this question. is not right in saying that we should, consider, doing things diplomatically. We are trying diplomatically, but diplomacy does not work. It has failed. Therefore, the military confrontation has taken place. So far as budget is concerned, I understand there are constraints. The priority should be education, health, industry, agriculture. There are so many sectors which need the attention. But if you don't have a secure border, if you don't have a secure nation, the budget will be useless. We are taken over by some other country. So we will have to, as per requirement, give the amount of budget and money which is needed to secure. I'm pretty sure that in the coming days the budget allocation will increase gradually. But there is a need to come up to the level, and immediately we cannot do that, but gradually we will try and reach that level. Today their economy is 5 times our economy. Militarily, they are very, very powerful in terms of weaponry, in terms of technology. They have 5th generation jets, if I correct. So there is a lot of disparity, but we will have to take a step, otherwise we will not exist. There is the issue of border inhabitants. The border inhabitants may have physical similarities, ethnic similarities with China, but their loyalties lie with India. People in Leh and Ladakh, they don't say that we belong to China. Some people in Kashmir may say that they prefer Pakistan, but they are a very, very small group. They are in minority. But most of the people on the borders are with India, and I don't see any problem in managing the population. Though our endeavor should be to develop, as I said in my talk, the border areas. We should create more, hospitals for them, schools, other facilities, so that they feel confident to stay there and they feel secure enough to stay. This exercise of developing the borders has to be expedited and improved. Earlier, the thinking of the army was not to develop borders, so that whenever there is any enemy onslaught, the enemy is not in a position to come inside. So no roads, no infrastructure, no bridges, or very little. Now we feel that we are strong enough to contain any enemy entering our borders, and therefore, for the sake of more trade with neighbors, for the sake of development of the border areas, we should have more infrastructure. This is the new thinking. So I hope I have tried and suitably address the issues raised by Dhananjay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
May I add to what Sharma Sahab has told just now, that as in the border management, since it is enshrined in the constitution that territorial integrity has to be protected. So what sir has told just now, I fully support that there should not be any limit to the budget. And we have two nuclear adversaries on northern side and the western side. So our forces must have the best of the weapons, best of the wherewithal to defend the borders and protect country. So this is what is the thinking right in the policy perspective, policy domain in the country. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. I have some more questions. If the speakers are willing to take this one, this one is addressed to Kamalakar sir. Sir, this is from a layman's perspective. The gentleman is asking that how could we, I mean, are we sure that this 2611 will not happen again? I mean, it's a very simple question, but very complicated, I believe.
It's easier answer than said, but I think all efforts are there. See, 100, there cannot be 100% security of anything. Security cannot be 100%, but at the same time, we try to achieve the 100% security. So I don't think this, the preparedness, the stance of the country as such, the initiatives and the signals we are giving to our enemies, they are very clear. And I don't think they would dare to do or attempt to do such act in future.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Yeah, be precise. Mr. Gupta, here is a question for you too. And this question is that while sitting in your air-conditioned chambers, the bureaucrats, how do they bridge the gap between the making of policy and being implemented by Jawans working in minus 25 degrees Celsius snow-clad fields? Will this approach at all work? Mr. Gupta.
Thank you, Santa, for putting this question from the viewers. This is very important thing that sitting in the rooms of North Block or South Block, we have to connect with what is happening on the ground. It's not that the bureaucrat alone sitting in those offices is responsible, but there is an entire team, and the actual the cutting edge is the forces which they bring to the table, all these things, and we have to be very sensitive to them, to their requirements. Off and on, I used to depute team, and we ourselves used to visit the areas. I myself visited. Planning is another thing, and what Kamalakar has told that about the postal security scheme, what Sharma Sahib has told about the infrastructure creation, technology infusion. These are work in progress, and yes, certainly we have to be very sensitive and put more time in the planning that is done in the North Block or South Block. And execution is there at the ground level. There is a system of feedback, certainly, and that feedback works. I would say, if not 100% okay, yes, to large extent it works. I think Sharma Sahib and Kamalakar Sahib will tell more about this, that they were the people who were on the ground and how we supported them. Sharma Sahib, I would request that, yes, certainly we were wanting to support you all, but then I would request you all to give your views. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta.
Sharma Sahib.
Yes, Sharma sir, your last please.
I was there in BSF for more than 6 years. I must say that we got all support and encouragement from MHA. Whenever the request was made for getting new equipment, creating infrastructure, I must say that every effort was made by the BM, Border Management Department, to give us budget. And it so happened that I was lucky to have home secretaries were very receptive, and the President Capsec, the batchmate of mine, he was at that time. And I was lucky that way. And Mr. Pradeep Gupta was always eager to chip in, and there is no complaint against MHA at all. There could be financial constraints beyond their control, but they were always positive, and we found some solution or the other to help the emergency.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Yeah.
I would like to say that during Mr. Guptaji's time as a Joint Secretary of Water Management, we had no hesitation in lifting the phone and call him and tell that problems. And he was always positive. He used to take all our considerations, our requests into account. And a lot of work has been done during so many years. I said there are total border management scene, and the officials involved in that, they were really charged up. Not about the funds, even state government, apart from central government, state government also provided so many funds. For example, in Maharashtra Maritime Board, they gave the funds for construction of the police stations. In fact, our state government gave the money for hiring the boats for patrolling. So that's not an issue. The approach of the governments, both the central and state, has been very positive. It's only the thing we have to gear up all our machinery for the achievement and utilization of these funds and raising the concerns. This activity and dynamism will definitely, I think, will go in a long way. Money, I think, and approach is very good. There is no issue about it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
I'll just add to what Sharma Sahab has told, that what he initiated was the CIABMS, and this project was languishing for a few years, but then nevertheless to take out an innovative project from the bureaucratic maze of the government is the toughest challenge. I would say tougher than guarding the border. And what Sharma ji did was the biggest victory of the system there, that at least we could get the project conceptualized and implement on the ground. Now fine tuning is happening, certainly it will be rolled out, but then the beginning has been made, trigger has been there in that project. It's a big step in that direction. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. That was very honest confession, and I would 100% endorse myself, having been a bureaucrat and working in many ministries. So yes, it's a tough call, you know. So nevertheless, thank you very much. And we need to be self-critical and self-introspective. I see Mr. Nerkar. I think he is very eager to ask a question to our speakers. So may I ask you, Mr. Nerkar?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for both the esteemed speakers on giving a very insightful talk on coastal security and land security. Sir, my question is more towards Kamalakar, sir, in the beginning. Sir, you mentioned the complexities of coastal security. There is an aspect of satellite imaging and artificial intelligence which may be applied. Is there any move towards that direction in the coastal security domain? Because Sharma sir mentioned usage of it in border management. That is a first part of the question. I also have a follow-up question for Sharma sir, actually. Sir, you mentioned usage of artificial intelligence and satellite imagery. One of the key problems in this particular domain is the availability of data. Having data, especially given the circumstances in border scenarios where there is masking and also camouflaging, how can young startups, I'm founder of one of the startups called Sapient Technologies. How can startups have access to such data so that such models can be developed? These are two questions for both the speakers. Thank you.
May I, sir?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely this technological boost for the security in general and especially coastal security is there. As I said in my talk that ISRO is developing transporters for identification of boats, plus its radar coastal network being developed by the Coast Guard. And so many things are being involved. All our agencies are involved in this, helping for the enhancement of the security apparatus, including coastal security apparatus. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sharma, sir.
You talked about the possibility of getting data for your use in private sector. I'm afraid so far as this data of imagery is concerned, it is highly classified. It will not be available. That's my impression. To particular inputs from NTRO and our own imagery taken through tools, we have been digitizing our borders, and the mapping has been done with the Pakistan and Bangladesh border, right? The border is totally digitized. Use of artificial intelligence also is increasing gradually. As I said, in our business section, we have analytical capability, and vast data is analyzed and networking the more data we have, the more predictive the machine becomes. As I told you, this was gradually the data is increasing, and so is the capability of predicting possibility of some action from the other way at a particular time. So I'm afraid the data cannot remain able as of now, but maybe with time, and there is more interaction between the private sector and the sector, then we may consider.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, do we have any other questions? Well, if not, then because there are a couple more questions, but then I think they have already been answered during the previous questions answers. Like it was addressed to Sharma sir, that on the internet there was a statement which is attributed to you that you cannot handle border issues without involving local people. However, what do you do when sometimes intent of the government and the local population may be diametrically opposite? How do you practically handle? I believe, sir, you already answered that previously. Add on, yeah.
I would like to say something here that it is the endeavor of every border guarding force to keep the border population on their side. As I said, where the population is very, very poor, pre-medical camps and training of the youth for recruitment in army, CAPF, distribution of sports kits, computers, these things, and also the use of DADP funds for creating facilities for the villagers in border areas. It helps create a bond and a positive atmosphere between the border guarding force and the there are some criminal elements also, but they are always contained with the help of local administration and the action by the border guarding force. For example, the cattle smuggling on Bangladesh border, the local population, most of them are involved in this cattle trade. But because of this issue, they don't become Bangladeshis. They are, at their hearts, they are Indians first, but it is their livelihood to indulge in this activity. But once they have better economic opportunities and better development in the border area, maybe this practice of cattle smuggling will stop. Today it is there primarily because there is nothing else for them to do, but they like to. So what I'm trying to say is that most of the people on the border are with Indian state, and most of the border guarding forces are in a position to create a very positive, friendly atmosphere to the civic action plan and to the DADP.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I believe the questions are over. In case you have further more questions, you can always post it on our website or you can send through WhatsApp. We would like to take a call on that. As we approach towards the close of it, may I say that there is, on the basis of whatever our speakers presented, there seems to be no dearth of policy initiatives and efforts to execute. However, you have the pockets of radicalization and you have need for more and more technology infusion like artificial intelligence. Perhaps there is a need for maybe more financial inputs, more funds needed for the same. Well, ladies and gentlemen, just to reiterate that at SAPI, we strive to produce knowledge which is actionable. In fact, we had been very fortunate indeed today to have the privilege of having speakers who both had been the man of experience as well as the man of action. And they shared their very practical insights, very useful pointers from a very nationalistic perspective. Hope that our policymakers will also reflect upon and take a call. Our aim being to sensitize stakeholders and strengthen their hands by giving them relevant, expert, and yet very practical inputs. Before we close, I, on behalf of SAPI and its team, extend a very hearty thanks to you both, sir, and also to our esteemed participants who have been associated with it since beginning till end, and some who dropped but then joined us with so much of enthusiasm. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the content of this webinar will shortly be available on YouTube and our website. I'm delighted to share that we have a series of very interesting events lined up under the aegis of SAPI. May I request our young co-founder, Mr. Sarang, to please share the details before we close it and say goodbye. Mr. Sarang.
Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, today's esteemed speakers, for a great event. Today was the 4th online event organized by SAPI. And we've covered various topics all the way from transfer of technology, today border management, and artificial intelligence. In the coming few weeks, we have organized 2 more very interesting topics for online events. One is on the 23rd of July on the usage of quantum computing and artificial intelligence for semiconductor manufacturing self-sufficiency in India. This will be a part of the Demystifying Artificial Intelligence webinar series that is hosted by SAPI. And the other event is on the 30th of July, which is a web discussion on a paper authored by Shri Jitendra Kumar Oja on India's national security, imperatives of a paradigm shift. We would welcome you all to these webinars and encourage you to participate on our online platform, which is also available on our website. Thank you very much. And over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Nerkar. Well, once again, had been such a wonderful experience being in your company, august company, I must say. Thank you. Have a very great day and have a lovely weekend. Thank you very much.